And we are back with another episode of Blue Review. It has been a while. The holidays were happening. Cody, how you been first off?
Not as good as the Dodgers because they keep it rolling, and Christmas came way after. They were still getting Christmas gifts way after even Christmas was happening. So I mean, I would say I'm doing good, but not as good as the Dodgers.
That's right. It's still the season of giving. I mean, it's like late into January already, and they're still on the hunt. But all right, so I'm Parker Bell alongside Cody Liu. We're with ESPN Los Angeles, and we, of course, do the Blue Review as a Dodgers talk, show that we will post on YouTube daily. Or sorry, not daily yet, but during the season will be daily. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
But of course, during the off season, we want to check in, see how the Dodgers are doing, see what's going on. And we're back from kind of the holiday break. So we hope everyone enjoyed their holidays. If you traveled, just like we did, and used LAX, then shout out because, as always, the Blue Review is presented by LAX. And at Los Angeles International Airport, changes are arriving daily to reduce traffic, save guests time, and transform the travel experience. For more information, of course, you can find info at flylax.com/transforminglAX, or you can always follow ESPN Los Angeles because LAX's great
Sedano's
partner
home away
always
from home.
Sedano's home away from home.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, Cody, let's just kind of get right into this. We mentioned it, one of the greatest holidays ever in Dodgers history, almost in MLB history. You sign Shohei Ohtani, you shine Yamamoto, and then boom, one of their biggest holes, that outfield, that left field, we needed a reliant bat. They filled it. Teoscar Hernandez, why don't you kind of talk on that signing a little bit?
Yeah, so the Dodgers went out and everyone was talking about and corporate Greg Bergman, who is obviously on the Blue Review constantly, was absolutely like yearning for, begging for. He was like, it's not enough. Shohei Ohtani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto isn't enough. They need to go out and get an everyday outfielder for the right or for the left or even center, depending on what Dave Roberts and the front office want to do. They went out, signed Teoscar Hernandez. I think it's a 1 year, $23.5 million deal, which I would say is kind of like a interesting contract just because he had a relatively career down year last year. He was in Seattle. I think he had like some career lows in terms of OPS and strikeouts. But the interesting thing to me is Greg got his wish. They signed Teoscar Hernandez. I think he's actually going to
Yep.
be playing. I think he's going to be their everyday left fielder, or maybe depending on
I
the
mean,
situation.
he's listed as a left fielder on the Dodgers website. Whether that's set in stone, who knows the
I
season. There's so
think
much
there's
time till the season.
yeah.
And
So he's
they're gonna move stuff around.
yeah, they're like you said, they're going to move stuff around depending on the everyday matchups. But I think you have an everyday left fielder who's a power hitting righty, which
Hmm.
I think is really is a good thing for this lineup, which is already potent. By the way, it's not like they needed the more offense, but in terms of his defense, it's great, and in terms of the value that you're getting in terms of the contract. It is a 1 year contract, right? So if it flames out, it flames out just because, like I said, like I mentioned earlier, he is on a career down year. But I will add this with the caveat of he is now entering a lineup where he does not have to, really carry the offensive load with Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Shohei Ohtani, Will Smith, Max Muncy at the plate. There's a lot of already good offensive power on this Dodgers lineup. He's not going to have to carry like he did in Seattle. He's not going to have to
Yeah.
necessarily, be as aggressive at the plate. Like I said, he's a power hitting righty, but he doesn't necessarily have to be as aggressive on the plate. He can be a little bit more patient, which I think is really good for him, and which will ultimately lead to a better outcome for the Dodgers.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, they got a squad out there in Seattle. No,
They
they're a
do.
good team, and of course, he's been surrounded by all-star level talent and great talent. In J. Rod, Eugenio Suarez is always a great, borderline all-star player. Now, it's just a completely different level with who will be joining. The pressure, in terms of the day-to-day lineup, will be less. But of course, as we know, just as it is with like the Lakers and basketball, when you play for the Dodgers, the pressure's different. And
Yep.
we've seen some of these stars not perform in the playoffs, but we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's just kind of talk about how the two-time Silver Slugger, the former All-Star in 2021, Teoscar Hernandez, just adds this sort of, while it's a one-year deal, he just kind of adds this sort of attitude that I feel the Dodgers needed, like a hard nosed, just I'm a baller. So the fact that the Dodgers are adding this guy, I think honestly they were lucky and blessed because he probably could have gone anywhere
Yep.
for just about the same price, if not maybe a little more.
Yep.
And it seems that he really wanted to be with the Dodgers. And I mean, he's only 31. So you're kind of essentially, you're losing JD, who was amazing for them last year.
Yep.
And Shohei will be, of course, the everyday
Yep.
DH. And you're adding youth. I
Yep.
mean, 31's not young, but comparatively to who they've had in the past with Turner, JD, you're adding kind of a guy who's almost in his prime. I know he had an off year, but an all-star in 2021 isn't far off um, from today in 2024. So, I mean, just talk about in terms of that lineup, what do you think is next? What do you think I mean, we know that the shortstop has kind of been the biggest conversation, but
Mhm.
why don't we just start there? What do we think? Gavin Lux coming back, the lineup, that end of the lineup there. Now that we have Teoscar, how comfortable are you with it, and what do you think will still be changed?
I think it's like I mentioned earlier. I think it's great for the organization and for the team in the sense that now that you have Teoscar Hernandez, who can be your everyday left fielder, and he's going to be on the back half of that lineup, it's great in the sense that Chris Taylor, if really want to boil it down, like Chris Taylor hasn't really been that great offensively. And obviously but the thing is that Chris Taylor isn't, he has big time hits. He's had big time hits in the postseason and everything like that. You kind of now that Chris Taylor isn't the everyday left fielder, you kind of put him back to where he's really great at, which is, being that like the utility man, right? He can play in the outfield. He can be in the infield if needed. Like I feel like you're putting him back into the role that he was really good at, which kind of alleviates the pressure of, him having to produce on the everyday basis because he's the everyday left fielder. You're
Mhm.
putting in Teoscar Hernandez, who is great offensively. He can be the everyday left fielder. And now you're adding somebody that kind of alleviates Chris Taylor to be what he can truly be great at.
Yeah.
And then you're putting Teoscar Hernandez in a position that he's already, used to. It helps that lineup in the sense like that. Now to get back to your question about Gavin Lux, if you look at the lineup, right, Mookie's going to lead off. Then you can debate.
Probably Shohei too. I mean, he's kind of been two his whole career.
So you can debate Freddie or Shohei, right?
Yeah.
2 and 3, interchangeable. Then you have Will Smith, right? I would say hitting at the 4 spot. Then you can say at that point it's Muncy, and then you can put Outman,
Teoscar.
Teoscar, Hayward, whoever, or Margot, whoever's playing on, right? And
Yeah,
then
another name we didn't mention, by the way,
yeah,
Manuel. Just the diversity that the Dodgers have added in terms of facing right-handed pitchers. Maybe Manuel's not really, going to be starting, but then or Outman, excuse me, like Outman not against lefties.
yep,
Same with Teoscar. He kind of has issues with lefties a little bit. Maybe
yep,
you're going out with Chris and you're
yep.
going out with Manuel. So I mean, you hit the nail, like you hit the nail on the head. It's just the diversity that they have now. It's damaged from top to bottom. You could go anywhere.
You
Anyone could
play
go.
around with the pieces, and now you're really operating at a spot where you can go with different pieces against different matchups, which I think, and I mean, the modern day baseball game is kind of like that. You want to tailor
Mhm.
based on matchups, and with the Teoscar Hernandez signing, it gives you that opportunity, to put. I think Outman will be the everyday center fielder, and I think the left field and the right field is where they're kind of play around with. But to get back to like what you were saying, or what we were talking about, Gavin Lux in the 9 hole, I think that if you look back at before he got hurt in the year prior, um, he was really good in that 9 hole spot, right? And you give him
Mhm.
the opportunity to just, hey man, you're in the 9 hole, do your thing, and which he really, I think, if you look at it before he got injured the year before, so that's what 2021. Sorry, I can't do math right now, but 2021. Um, if you look at it when he was in the 9 hole, they kind of put him in it. earlier in the lineup and he wasn't doing as well, and then they kind of stuck him down in the 9 hole, and he was secretly doing really well. I think he was hitting above three. His batting average was like close to being um close to the 300 area. So I think putting him in the 9 hole, especially coming off an injury at the very least, where he kind of is gonna have to bounce back from. I think putting it in the 9 hole is perfect because you kind of like, hey man, whatever you produce, you produce. And on top of that, the thing that he has to kind of worry about or kind of transition into is, being the everyday shortstop. So I don't think they'll go out and we'll talk about like kind of what else they need in a little bit, but I think Gavin Lux is going to be the everyday shortstop as of right now. And I think putting him in the 9 hole is perfect because he's excelled in that position before. It kind of alleviates the stress of, when you have Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, and Freddie Freeman,
Right.
whatever you can get from that 9 hole, and I think will be perfect for Gavin Lux because he has to worry about playing shortstop anyways. And I think to me, it's Travis and Greg. They have differing views. I think to me, the Dodgers lineup right now is currently as constructed is pretty damn good as it gets in Major League Baseball. And I think Gavin Lux at shortstop. We'll see how it goes, right? We'll see whether he's a good shortstop or not. But I think lineup wise, Gavin Lux in that 9 hole. I don't think it gets better than that.
Yeah. I mean, early season predictions have a lot of the pundits have the Dodgers at one. And there's a reason for it. Like it's just the proof is in the pudding. They got players who are amazing, at their respective position, and they clearly won the offseason. It's not even a question. There, of course, are returning teams with some consistency who will be just fine. Of course, you always think of the Braves, the Rangers, the reigning world champs. They still got those guys on contract for another couple years. The Astros making moves, which I think we're going to get into a little bit
Yep.
in just a minute there, because let's just get straight into it. Another key, I don't want to say issue, but definitely a key hole in the Dodgers, is the closing position, the
Yep.
closing pitcher. In the past, they've had to go through these last couple of years just this series of this guy, this guy,
Hmm.
random guy. We're throwing in some young guys, et cetera. Like it's just been a hodgepodge of
Yep.
different guys coming through. Setup guys going 3 innings, the Gratteralls finishing off games. It's all over the place.
Yep.
A lot of the closers who were available this year kind of stayed put and stayed pat because they
Yep.
were waiting on a certain someone to set the bar, and that bar has been set. So Cody Lou, as of today, well, January 20th, it's been a few days. The Astros picked up Josh Hader
Hmm.
on I want to believe it was a 5-year, 95 mil.
Yep.
Yeah, off the top of my head. We'll pull up his exact details in just a minute, but there we go. That sets the bar for the closer game moving forward. What can the Dodgers do now? I mean,
I think the one thing I say, well, the first thing I'll start with is like, you hear Mace and you hear like other like pundits and writers and everything. Everybody was thinking because the Dodgers had the off seasons, they're like,
mhm.
I mean, getting Josh Hader is like, gonna close the deal, right? Like they're gonna fill
The cherry
every
on top,
single need,
right?
right? And to me, like Josh Hader, like as much as he like was a Padre and everything like that, he didn't really seem like he'd fit in LA. He didn't really seem like the guy like the Dodgers would go out and get. And like to me, him and Dodger Blue just didn't seem like it was like all that. Like you
I
don't
mean, I mean, you
like
look at his past, the Brewer,
yeah,
Padre.
like
It's literally the exact opposite of
yeah,
Dodgers. Like it's the rivalries of
yeah.
Dodgers. So
I feel like him going to the Astros or like even him, like there was a lot of linkage towards him and the Rangers. Those two teams seemed like the really big fit for Josh Hader, right? Like it was like
yeah,
those two teams seemed like he would fit more with than the Dodgers. And if it would have happened, it would have been like, okay, great, we got Josh Hader, right? But if not, um, he went to the Astros, and it seems like he would be an Astro. It seems like if he went to the Rangers, it seems like he would have been a Ranger. But that was like it was the big closer, like I would say, like um the big the ace, right? The ace of like the deck and
mhm.
everything like that. Like everyone was kind of waiting for him to come off the market, and now you're gonna see guys kind of start to the relievers will start to kind of start signing at other places that are available. I don't. I would say there are a few options for them to go out and at least based on the rumors, and based on reports, there's a few names out there like a Ryan Brazier who
Mhm.
was on the Dodgers last season, who excelled really in the bullpen role. Do they go out and grab that guy, or Ryan Brazier, and see if they can run it back and see if he can be the everyday closer? Or do they, have see what they have right now and, like you said, go with the hodgepodge of like um the bullpen and see based on matchups who they want to go up, bring out there and close the game. I've heard Kenley Jensen. Um,
Mhm.
I don't think Kenley's going to return to LA. Some people may want that. I don't think it'll happen. Um,
I'm sure he would even like the
I'm sure,
idea.
yeah. I mean, who doesn't want to be in LA? And plus, it's one of those guys where you can kind of bring back and it's going to fit because he's been with the team for so long and
Yep.
everything like that. But via trade, there was a lot of talk a little bit earlier this month, and even a little bit before or after the Yamamoto and Otani signing, Shane Bieber and Emmanuel Clase, like in terms of trading for those two guys, then you would
Mhm.
have the everyday closer, you would have another starter. It seems like the perfect fit or perfect trade for the Dodgers to make. You heard their names. I think I think maybe they go out and bring a guy like a Ryan Brazier, um, sort of a guy that's kind of under the radar, maybe didn't have like the greatest of years in terms of relieving this past year, kind of bringing in, put that prior pixie dust on him
Yep.
and see what they can roll with, right? I feel like that's such a classic Dodgers thing, and I think I'm gonna say they're gonna roll with that. I think they're gonna go out, get some guy out there that's kind of under the radar. People are gonna be like, huh? And then they're Mark Pryor's going to do his thing, and then they're going to see
Yeah.
him on the mound. And for most part, like you've seen it with guys like Chris Martin, who I think ended up signing with the or not the Dodgers, the Yankees last year or something like that. He
Mhm.
was under the system. He had that prior pixie dust, and he ended up being really good in that closer role, for the Dodgers for a little bit. Ryan Brazier, like I mentioned, same thing, prior pixie dust, ended up becoming really doing really well in that role. I think that's what they end up doing. I don't know if that guy will be the everyday closer. I think they're going to go with the hodgepodge of bullpen pieces. Would it be nice to have an everyday closer? I think everybody would love that. But at the end of the day, in terms of the elites, Josh Hader's out there, Edwin Diaz is out there, but those guys are at a premium price. Those guys are at a price where I don't know if the Dodgers are willing to go into that market of paying, 5 years for 95 millions,
Yeah.
95 million of, I feel like and history shows they're more in terms of shorter term contracts, the average,
For relievers especially, yeah.
yeah,
I
especially,
mean,
right? It's like, go ahead.
but I was just gonna say, as recent history has shown,
Yeah.
looks like I mean, not looks like it. They are going all in, so
Yeah.
they may be in the mindset of just, well, screw it. If we got the money, let's just give the guy the money.
Hmm.
So there may still be a big fish that they go after, like a hater.
Hmm.
There's not many names available still, but I like the buy low example. It's worked for them in the past. Obviously, I mean, in the postseason, it's really just been like hitting that has been their crutch.
Yep.
So it has worked for them, the hodgepodge of different players finishing games. But our guy Corporate Greg brought up
Yep.
a good example of maybe something unique that the Dodgers could do in-house with the closer role. And I want to hear what you think about this. The Dustin May returning from injury, got some of the nastiest, the filthiest stuff in the game. Excuse me. And perhaps he could be in the closer role.
I think I love the idea of it just because, like you said, his stuff is nasty. And I think, and we talked about it prior to this, and Greg's mentioned it before, his stuff is closer material type stuff. And given the injury history that he's had the last couple of years, it's not like, I think you're, at the end of the day, like if Dustin May wants to be a starter and the Dodgers see him as a starter, like of course you pray for the best, right? You pray that, the injuries are past him and he's going to be like this great, um starter where his stuff is like absolutely like electric.
Right.
But if not, maybe you transition him into a closer. I think it'd be interesting. I honestly think it'd be such an interesting thing for him to go out there and be a closer because his stuff is it's I would say his stuff is so like not so, but like I think his stuff is volatile as a starter at this point, given the
Mhm.
injury history, that it's hard for you to go out there and be like, well, like the passengers indicate that, man, if you're throwing this stuff as a starter, you're going 2, 3 innings, 4 innings with all this stuff, you're gonna kill your arm, right?
Yeah.
So why not have try him out? I say try him out as a closer and see how he does because I think his stuff definitely plays up as a closer.
Yeah. No, I like it. I mean, both between him and Walker, it's just the
Walker's
stuff that
another
they,
interesting guy too.
yeah. I mean, the stuff that they throw is, I mean, it's how do you put it? Like, I feel like these guys, Walker and Dustin in particular, are kind of on the cutting trend of like these are these new all out hard throwing guys.
Yep.
You know, they got the Bobby Millers now, who luckily hasn't dealt with injuries yet. Um, but they were kind of that first generation of just like our stuff is just, I mean,
Yeah.
our arm
Yeah.
is just being worn out to the max. And we'll see what happens after both having gone through it. Both have gone through two Tommy John.
TJ's. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's not a lot of science and research on how pitchers can succeed and how much they succeed after two TJs, and we'll find out. Um, Shohei's dealing with a similar thing, but it's not exactly a TJ this time.
Yep.
There's been a few cases where it works out and it's fine. But I'm curious to see what they do with that closer role. It's exciting. Um, we'll kind of end the episode here where just letting everyone know we'll be back with, of course, Corporate Greg for the season. We'll have some few more episodes sprinkled in there with myself, Parker Bell, and Cody Lou. And we're just going to continue to give updates on, what's going on in Dodger land. And
Let us know what you guys think.
I,
Dustin May as a closer. Do you guys want to see that? I think it's interesting. I think Parker thinks it's interesting. CGB, Corporate Greg Bergman thinks that
hey,
he wants to see
baby.
it. He wants to see it. Let us know in the comments. Do you want to see it, or do you want them to go out there and make a trade, or go out there and sign up some guy that's like kind of underrated? Because I also really quick point before we get out of here. I think
Mhm.
if they go out and get another starter out there, I think at that point you can kind of really play up at this point, Dustin May and Walker. I think Walker most likely will return as a starter, but at that point, if you go out and get a starter, I feel like at that point you can kind of experiment and go out there and see like, hey, maybe D May in the bullpen, D May as a closer. I think that's actually an opportunity for
Yeah.
us to go out
And
and
I,
see.
and I mean, who knows? Maybe some of these young prospects, Dodgers always have one of the top, minor league systems in the
Yep.
league. You got guys like Nick Frasso and Gavin Stone who, showed some promise,
Yep.
a little bit of promise.
Yeah.
He struggled there, but of
You know.
course, anybody's gonna struggle in their
Yeah.
first,
Yeah.
couple times in the league. There might be a name that comes in there, who just pops off. You never know. So let us know what you think. Maybe a young guy will come in and take the crown as the new Dodgers great closer. We've had plenty of them. Maybe they go out on a trade, etc. So just let us know, and we will
Who
be here.
knows in the Dodgers' opportunity of I don't
That's the
know.
thing. The fact that they have done what they've done has created so many opportunities for just different directions to go. The fact that they've decided to just go all in means that they can really go anywhere in terms of decisions, money making decisions. So I'm excited, and I know that all of you in Dodger Nation are as well. Dodgers Nation as just fandom, not
Yeah.
Anyways, we will talk to you soon, and I thank you for joining us. This has been Parker Bell and Cody Liu for Blue Review, presented by LAX. So as always, thank you, LAX. We'll catch you next time.